of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of...
Senator Richard Blumenthal just got Pete Hegseth, the nominee for Secretary of Defense, to sit in silence while a single damning fact hung in the air. Blumenthal, a veteran and a former prosecutor, came prepared to expose the gap between Hegseth's victim narrative and the evidence against him. This is not a hearing, this is an indictment. Subscribe and watch closely. What Blumenthal exposes here goes straight to the heart of Hegseth's fitness to command.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk. I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely...
Hegseth deploys that phrase like a legal incantation, but Blumenthal isn't buying it. He immediately reframes the definition. Being cleared of a crime is not the same as being cleared of character. Hegseth admitted he was still married to one woman while fathering a child with another. That's not a legal gray area. That's a pattern. And Blumenthal's disbelief is palpable. He cannot fathom a nominee for Secretary of Defense standing before the Senate and pretending that a settled, non-disclosed misconduct allegation is simply a clean slate.
Cleared.
Senator,
how is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything...
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
Again,
how do you explain your judgment?
Completely false charges against me.
You
fully investigated, and I was completely...
Watch the deflection in real time. Hegseth brings up the child's name, Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth. She's 7 years old. She's a child of God. It's an emotional gambit, trying to make the accuser look cruel for asking simple, factual questions. Blumenthal doesn't flinch. He pounces, "You cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after she was born." And then the script repeats. Fully investigated, completely cleared. Hegseth cannot answer the judgment question because the judgment question is unanswerable. This is not a legal defense. This is a brick wall made of talking points, and Blumenthal keeps driving into it.
Completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So you
talking about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge,
that
you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that.
I will allow you.
This is where the dodge becomes indefensible. Blumenthal asks a yes or no question. If someone had committed a sexual assault, would that disqualify them from being Secretary of Defense? A 7-year-old could answer this. Hegseth cannot. He is trapped by his own narrative. If he says yes, he implies the accusation against him should disqualify him. If he says no, he admits he sees no moral floor for the office, so he just repeats the script. It was a false claim 3 times. Blumenthal finally calls him on it and pivots to the one thing Hegseth has admitted, the adultery. I will allow your words to speak for themselves, Blumenthal says. It's a devastating line. He doesn't need to argue anymore. He can just let the record stand.
Your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, I'm not a perfect person, not claiming to be.
But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior Jesus.
Now, Blumenthal draws a direct line between personal integrity and national security. An oath is an oath. If you can casually discard a marital oath, why should anyone trust you with the oath to defend the Constitution? Hegseth's response is the oldest trick in the book. Admit to being not perfect and pivot immediately to redemption through Jesus Christ. This is not a theological debate. It's an accountability test. The question was not about forgiveness. The question was about judgment. Blumenthal is asking whether a man who broke his most sacred personal promises can be trusted with the nuclear codes. And Hegseth's answer is a religious deflection, not a substantive one. This is not a confession. It's a scripted escape hatch designed to shut down further inquiry. Blumenthal isn't buying it.
Divorces from your first and second wives, were there non-disclosure agreements in connection with those divorces?
Senator, not that I'm aware of.
If there were, would you agree to release those first and second wives from any confidentiality agreement?
Senator, it's not something I'm aware of.
But if there were, you would agree to release them from a confidentiality agreement?
Senator, that's not my responsibility.
Did you ever engage in any acts of physical violence against any of your wives?
Senator, absolutely not.
But you would agree with me that if someone had committed physical violence against a spouse, that would be disqualifying to serve as Secretary of Defense, correct?
Senator, absolutely not have I ever done that.
You would agree that that would be a disqualifying offense, would you not?
Senator, you're talking about a hypothetical.
I don't think it's a hypothetical. Violence against spouses occurs every day. And if you as a leader are not capable of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of.
Blumenthal escalates to physical safety. NDAs with ex-wives? Not my responsibility. Spousal violence? I've never done it. But then the trap springs again. Would spousal violence be disqualifying? Hegseth calls it a hypothetical. Blumenthal loses his patience. Violence against spouses occurs every day. This is not a hypothetical. This is the single most damning moment of the entire exchange. Hegseth cannot say yes. He cannot say no. So he defaults to deflection, and Blumenthal calls it exactly what it is, an astonishing lack of judgment. This is not a complex ethical question. It's the baseline for any commander. Hegseth failed it entirely, and he did it in front of the entire country. For a nominee who will command forces with a well-documented domestic violence problem in the ranks, failing to condemn spousal abuse outright is a catastrophic disqualification. He's hiding behind procedure.
The incident in Monterey led to a criminal charge, a criminal investigation, a private settlement, and a cash payment to the woman who filed the complaint. And there was also a non-disclosure agreement, correct?
It was a confidential settlement agreement off of a nuisance lawsuit.
Right. During an interview, you claimed that you settled the matter because you were worried that if it became public, it might hurt your career.
The pattern of payoffs and silence is laid bare. Criminal charge, investigation, settlement, cash payment, NDA. Blumenthal lists them like charges in an indictment. Hegseth dismisses it as a nuisance lawsuit. But his own words come back to haunt him. He admitted in an interview that he settled because he was worried it would hurt his career. So which is it? A frivolous claim from a blackmailer or a legitimate risk from an aggrieved party? Both stories can't be true. If it was a nuisance lawsuit, why pay anything? If it was blackmail, why did he engage in the behavior that made the blackmail possible? And why hide it from the man who wanted to make him Secretary of Defense? Blumenthal doesn't need to answer these questions. He just needs to lay them out and let the logic do the work. This is the behavior of someone who cannot be straightforward with the American people. The silence from Hegseth here is deafening. He has no good answer because there is no good answer.
Do you maintain that you were blackmailed?
Senator, I maintain that false claims were made against me. And ultimately,
your attorney
those
used
false
the
claims,
frame.
I have the opportunity to attest my innocence in those false claims.
But you didn't reveal any of this to President Trump or the transition team as they were considering you to be nominated for Secretary of Defense. You didn't reveal the action. You didn't reveal the criminal complaint. You didn't reveal the criminal investigation. You didn't reveal the settlement. You didn't reveal the cash payment. Why didn't you inform the commander-in-chief and the transition team of this very relevant event?
Senator, I've appreciated every part of the process with the transition team. They have been open and honest with me. We've had great conversations between the two of us, and I appreciate the opportunity that President-elect Trump has given me.
You chose not to reveal this, right? Because you knew it would hurt your chances. So you chose not to reveal this really important thing to the commander-in-chief and the transition team because you were worried about your chances rather than trying to be candid with the future president.
Blumenthal switches from moral questioning to a direct act of concealment. He asks, why didn't you tell the commander-in-chief about any of this? The criminal complaint, the investigation, the settlement, the payment. Nothing was disclosed. Hegseth offers a non-answer about appreciating the transition team's openness. Blumenthal cuts through it immediately. You chose not to reveal this, right? Because you knew it would hurt your chances. Plain and simple. If a junior officer in the Pentagon concealed a misconduct complaint, they would face court-martial and a dishonorable discharge. For Hegseth, it's just a footnote. He prioritized his own career over full disclosure to the president. If you can't be honest with the man nominating you, how can you be trusted with the lives of American soldiers? This is not a policy disagreement. This is a basic character failure. Hegseth's silence here is the only honest thing he's done all day. And here comes the most shocking part of a hearing that just keeps getting worse.
Are there any other important facts that you chose not to reveal to the president-elect and his team as they were considering you to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I sit here before you an open book, as everyone who's watched this process.
With multiple non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements tying the hands of many people who would like to comment to us. Much has been made of your workplace behavior as a leader of nonprofit veterans organizations and as a Fox News contributor. Were you fired from either of the leadership positions with the nonprofits?
I was the leader. I was the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and the executive director of Vets for Freedom.
Were you fired from either
and I was
of them?
never fired from a veterans organization.
Do you have non-disclosure agreements with either of those organizations?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator.
Many of your work colleagues have said that you show up for work under the influence of alcohol or drunk. I know you've denied that, but you would agree with me, right, that if that was the case, that would be disqualifying.
Now Blumenthal zooms out from the personal scandals to professional incompetence, workplace misconduct, drinking on the job. Reports that Hegseth was effectively pushed out of leadership at a veterans nonprofit. Hegseth dodges, claiming he was the leader, not the one fired. But the accounts from his former colleagues paint a consistent, ugly picture. And crucially, these people are named. They are not anonymous trolls. They are fellow veterans who worked alongside him in the mission to support troops. Hegseth tries to wave it away as false claims. Blumenthal doesn't flinch. He's building a tower of evidence so high that no single talking point can knock it down. This is not one bad night in Monterey. This is a decades-long pattern of behavior that would disqualify a person from managing a desk job, let alone the Pentagon. A man asking to control the largest military in history has no answer for why his own colleagues called his behavior abusive. This is the pattern of a man who believes the rules simply don't apply to him. And the most damning part hasn't even come yet.
For somebody to be Secretary of Defense.
Senator, those are all anonymous false claims, and the totality
they're not anonymous.
The letters on the record here.
They're not anonymous.
On the record,
we've seen records with names attached to them.
Vets for Freedom, Concerned Vets for America, and Fox News
attributing
to me
one of your colleagues
working hard every day on behalf of
one of your
mission.
colleagues said that you got drunk at an event at a bar and chanted, "Kill all Muslims." Another colleague, not anonymous, we have this, said that you took co-workers to a strip club. You were drunk, you tried to dance with strippers, you had to be held off the stage, and one of your employees in that event filed a sexual harassment charge as a result of it. Now, I know you denied these things, but isn't that the kind of behavior that, if true, would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, anonymous false charges.
They're not anonymous. And I'll just conclude and say this to the chairman. You claim that this was all anonymous. We have seen records with names attached to all of these, including the name of your own mother. So don't make this into some anonymous press thing. We have seen multiple names of colleagues consistently throughout your career that have talked about.
And here is the knockout punch. Hegseth tries to dismiss every single witness as anonymous. Blumenthal stops him cold. They are not anonymous. We have records with names attached to all of these, including the name of your own mother. Your own mother. Hegseth's attempt to play the victim of an anonymous smear campaign literally crumbled when Blumenthal revealed that his own mother had written a letter detailing his abusive behavior. A nominee for Secretary of Defense who called his own mother a liar under oath. That's the bottom line. So let's recap. A candidate who concealed an active criminal investigation from the commander-in-chief. A candidate who cannot say whether spousal abuse disqualifies someone for high office. A candidate who paid an NDA settlement to an accuser while claiming it was a nuisance lawsuit. A candidate who was accused of workplace drinking, sexual harassment, and violent rhetoric by named colleagues. A candidate whose own mother felt the need to warn the public. An administration that nominated this man anyway. This is not accountability. This is a full-scale collapse of the vetting process. The question now is not whether Hegseth is qualified. The question is whether the Senate has any standards left to defend. We cannot stay silent. What do you think? Could a military commander with this track record pass a basic security clearance in your workplace? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe to hold power accountable.